You're listening to Media Arts Radio Side. Welcome to Mars.
YouTuber who was shot here tonight is what's known as a First Amendment auditor. These are people who show up to different properties to kind of test out their First Amendment right to film. They want to see what kind of a reaction they get from the property owners. And when that YouTuber showed up here tonight, she got a reaction from the security guard here when she started filming this building, and she certainly wasn't expecting what happened next.
Oh! Shot me! Shot me in the leg.
You're watching the moment a YouTuber is shot after a confrontation with a security guard.
It's a warning shot. You keep doing that, I will charge you the rear.
It all happened Thursday afternoon right outside this Jewish synagogue and high school off of Beverly Boulevard in the Fairfax district. The person shot was Zoe Perez. She's a transgender woman and a First Amendment auditor who runs the Furry Potato YouTube channel, where she films at different locations to gauge the response. So what happened Thursday, right before things escalated between Perez and the security guard?
Oh!
She told media she began filming the front doorway because she liked the way it looked. But one witness who asked us for anonymity told us Perez was antagonizing.
And there was like someone holding a tactical camera. It wasn't like a regular camera, and they were dressed in like tactical leather gear. It was a very strange outfit. And they were just like at the doorway videotaping the synagogue and all the young girls, that are coming in and going, coming and leaving. He was looking to create tension. He wanted a response.
In a statement Thursday evening, the school principal said the same thing.
This afternoon, an individual was filming our girls at the school and the building, the perimeter of the building extensively, including all the windows and the exits. And this caused a great deal of anxiety to both our staff and our students. And during the incident, we did try to keep the girls calm, and the building was placed on lockdown until an all clear was given.
More First Amendment auditors showed up at the school Thursday night after Perez was shot on her live stream. Some of them got into a confrontation with passerbys who didn't want to be filmed and were upset they were there.
You are a dirty racist.
As for Perez, she was quickly released from the hospital with only minor injuries.
Shot me!
And it's important to point out that it is 100% legal to film from a public sidewalk like Perez was doing today. That is well within somebody's First Amendment right, no matter how annoyed somebody gets, no matter how disrespectful somebody believes it is. And for that reason, LAPD tells us late tonight, they have arrested that security guard, and he has now been charged with the felony. They ID him as 44-year-old Edwin Zelaya Grunfield. That is the security guard. He is now charged with assault with a deadly weapon. We're live in the Fairfax district tonight. Bill Malugin, Fox 11 News.
Okay, everybody. That was probably as bad as some of the, how would you say,
news coverage of this story, I would say that ended the best possible. We heard everybody's garbage remarks all the way down to a tactical camera, which I have to say got a laugh out of me. A tactical camera. I didn't think there was such a thing. I mean, I don't know, is it a semi-automatic, AR-15 camera or something? It's just, that blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. And I don't even know what to think about that. Now, we're going to have some discussion today. And the discussion is going to probably tick off a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to hear both sides of this argument. Now, what we're going to do one by one, we're going to have analysis done on this. And we're going to have analysis done from a blue line point of view. And I know that's not going to be popular. But I think understanding the way they think may open the minds of somebody and may open a better way of communication. Now, I have been in contact with both these officers and actually arguing with them for the past 2 days. And we've actually come to what I think might actually be one of the bigger misunderstandings in the community on both sides. Now, I mean, I'm going to say this right away. Not all officers are good. Not all officers are bad. There's some damn good officers out there, and there's some lousy ones out there. Absolutely lousy ones. But what I'm not going to tolerate is some of, and I bet you I deleted probably 400 to 500 comments that were absolutely disgusting and faced and directed entirely towards furry. At the same time, some of the comments I deleted called for the death of police. Not going to be tolerated. Won't happen. I'm not going to tolerate that. You guys are going to have to learn that there are some people out there that want to open communicate. They want to communicate. They want to learn. These officers are coming on here today to actually communicate with you guys, give you their insight into this from their perspective. Now, their perspective sometimes ticks me off, guys. I'm going to tell you right now. We were screaming. Well, not screaming, but it got a little heated. I'm just saying. I mean, once I get to to my constitutional rights, I don't care how upset you are about my constitutional rights. I don't care if it bothers you. You're crying? Your delusions don't trump my rights. And I know we've had some terrible school shootings and terrible things, but you know something? You cannot give up your liberty for freedom, because then you're going to deserve neither. But that being said, that line of freedom is supposed to be for everybody, not just one side. And that's where we have this crossroad, I think, or at least this intersection where a lot of cars are smashing up. A lot of people are smashing up because everybody wants their right of way. When your rights impede someone else's pursuit of happiness, which is in the Bill of Rights, then that's where these issues happen. And I'm not making excuses for anybody. What I want to do is create an open dialogue, if you guys can handle it. Okay? And I don't mind you guys objecting to what is being said. I don't mind you guys disagreeing with it. Any words of violence, some of the disgusting things that I've seen said over the past week are not going to be tolerated. It's not going to happen. Save that for the streets when you want to scream in public where you can do it. This ain't public. This is my channel. I want good discussion. I want open discussion. I don't mind you guys getting upset at me because I may believe one thing or another. I hope you guys are very open to hearing, because let me tell you something. I can find fault and things that were done wrong from both sides of this. But that being said, of course we can. We're sitting on the outside of this. We weren't there. We're taking every video footage we can possibly find. And we're talking about it. And what I'm going to do before I take the calls in, let's go ahead. I'd like to play what was on Inside Edition. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll get this one going. I'm going to play this one, and I want you guys to really take a listen at what was said in here.
Shot me!
This was the startling moment a YouTuber whose channel name is Furry Potato was shot in the leg.
Shot me!
The whole thing was streamed live on the account. Police say the content curator, who goes by Zoe Perez, was outside a Los Angeles synagogue standing on a public sidewalk when she was shot by a security guard.
During the incident, we did try to keep the girls calm, and the building was placed on lockdown.
The school's principal says there was concern over what Zoe was filming.
An individual was filming our girls at the school and the building, the perimeter of the building extensively, including all the windows and the exits. And this caused a great deal of anxiety to both our staff and our students.
You know, I'm just taking shots of the thing. You know, he comes up super aggressive. I'm not looking to talk to that guy at that point.
Some say the school's response was uncalled for.
Listen, nobody should freak out when someone's recording from a public sidewalk. And that's all she was doing.
Perez is a First Amendment auditor, according to the YouTube channel description. The account, with more than 17,000 subscribers, shows video of Perez going to public places and testing First Amendment rights.
Again, I don't understand how I could interfere with business when I was in the lobby for 25 seconds, but, you know, it is what it is.
Perez, who here is commenting on previous unrelated charges, isn't facing charges in this case. The security guard was charged with assault using a deadly weapon. This is InsideEdition.com.
Okay. What did you guys hear in that? There's two things that alarmed me when I saw it. First off, she was filming the students going in and out. They're in a public area, guys. Absolutely within Furry's rights to do this. Let me throw something out there. What if you were with your family at a park, public park, and somebody was walking around filming one of your kids? If that happened to me, that person would get a visit from me. And I'd ask them, don't be filming my kid. And truth be told, I'd probably go to jail if they gave me any lip. I would probably tie a cinder block to him and throw him in a pond. I would go to jail for it. Isn't that crazy? It's within their rights to film. I'm in a public place. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've walked up to and stared down people that were following my son around in a grocery store. 4 times now this has happened. I would go to jail, guys. With a smile on my face, I would go to jail. Carolina, what I'm saying is if they were filming my kid in a park. What I'm saying in a store, I've had people follow my son around. And that wherever my son was, they were at the end of that aisle looking. And I've basically chased him down. I've chased him out of the store. No, they... No, trust me. They were not shoplifting watchers. No, they were, they were chased out. Basically, I walked towards them and I asked them if they had a problem, and they took off running. Oh, yeah. I had a guy pretending he was looking at stuff at the end of the aisle, and, and was watching my son. And this happened, guys, wherever we went in the store. this person followed my son. Like I said, this has happened a few times. So what I'm saying is, there are things that happen in a public place that cause alarm. It does. It causes concern, alarm. But you know something? It's within your rights to film. Absolutely within your rights to film. But when that happened at a school, and I have a problem with the school's layout. Most of the schools have a buffer zone between where the building begins and where the public is, the public sidewalk. There's usually a fence, gate, and then the school is back quite a ways. Most public schools are like that. I guess in that area you can't do that. So you can't complain when someone is on the sidewalk. Now what we'll see in the video is the confrontation between Furry Potato and the security guard. And my problem with the security guard is he seems to forget that it is a public sidewalk and tries to stop Furry from walking and in any direction, basically cuts her off and stops her from continuing on and says, stop. Don't come forward. Puts his hand up, and you'll see this in the videotape. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this. And I'm sorry. You're not from this country, so obviously you don't know the rights that we have here. You don't understand them for whatever reason. You don't understand them. Because you can't do that. Your jurisdiction ends when the school grounds end. Absolutely. Stopping her from moving on the public sidewalk. He cannot do that. Did it with his gun out. Yeah, Constitution, I have it queued up. We're going to be watching that. Yes, we're going to be watching that. I'm sorry if my microphone's pretty hot, but if I get loud, it gets hot. So, well, that's what's going on there. So, sorry about that. Now, Joshua, I don't know. You see, that's just it. I think there's too much speculation as to what her intention was. We all know what her intention was. We all know it. But the public doesn't. The police, the security guard didn't know her intentions. The security guard comes from a country where if someone shows up and acts like that, but that's the problem. He came here to this country and thought he was still in Israel. Sorry. Doesn't work that way. You're in the wrong country. Your fear, your paranoia, and all that doesn't trump my rights. Now, that being said, let's start to go through this a little bit. Now, guys, we're probably going to go through this again when I have the officers on. So let's go ahead and let me cue it up here, and let's get going.
Okay. 328. I'm down a little bit. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 buildings from 328. I'll get the street name here, but that's where I'm parked. Off of this street, a few buildings away from 328. And everybody's dressed like this. I see a lot of girls dressed like this in their green skirts and their tops. I'm not sure if it's a Jewish tradition or what. But it's off of Stanley Avenue. That address is Stanley Avenue. I'm on Stanley. This way.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this ahead a little
This
bit.
way.
Let's see here.
so. I don't know if it's a school uniform or whatever. So I'm parked down that way.
Okay.
On
let's see
Stanley.
here. What would be the best so I can...
So
we're
yeah.
not sitting here for 30 plus minutes.
And it's off of Beverly.
And before I get going any further, remember in the Inside Edition interview, she said she went in the building. And that there is a mistake. It is not a public building. It is a private school. Now, whether or not someone told her to leave or she just walked in, looked around, and left, that is probably what drew the most attention to her. Now, the video doesn't show her going in the lobby. She said she was in the lobby for about 25 seconds. I don't know if she was confronted by anybody. Don't know. But that's a big no-no, okay? That could have really drawn a lot of attention towards her. Why did she go in the school with a camera? I don't think she was by herself, so I don't think she left the camera outside and went inside. So let's go ahead and continue. Hold on a second. Carolina, I don't believe anybody called the police before the shot, and that's what kind of blows my mind. If they were so scared and they were so nervous, why weren't the cops called immediately? That kind of freaks me out a little bit, because this guy had no business being on a public sidewalk with his gun out, but a cop could have been there. A cop has business and has jurisdiction in the public. So, Jamie, you're saying she didn't enter the school on that date? So what you're trying to tell me is she's been there before? I don't believe so. She talked about it in her Inside Edition interview. She talked with Inside Edition and said she went in. Okay. Then if that's the case, then that's my mistake. Ed Hartgrove? Yeah, if that's the case, that's my mistake then. As far as the situation, Andrew, you're going to have to watch the other stream. It's the only one that's been downloaded like 26,000 times or so. So I'm just saying. Okay, so let's continue here.
Sorry for the wind noise.
I'm going to move this ahead again because
just crossed in front of that car.
I'm trying to get where... There we go. Right about there. And this is where she starts... Okay, why did someone get timed out, guys? I don't know what was said, so I didn't see. Yeah, what a shocking, Dabiv. Yeah. Please explain why that person was thrown out of the room.
Is engraved in that.
Okay, see, this is where she's basically filming the architecture.
Pretty neat. They got some like drawings or pictures inside of the stained glass, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
That one's like a chalice.
I'm going to try to really boost the volume here.
Yep. I'm not going to let the security guard get my face. Oh, no.
Okay, this is... Now you hear him. Why are you recording? Why are you recording? that's a common interaction. But I mean, this guy is fidgety. Now, I don't believe he's reaching for his gun or having his hand on his gun, but he's messing with his walkie-talkie, I believe. I'm not sure.
It's a boy. That was a girl. It's a boy.
And there's an interaction coming up that I think warrants some discussion. And we'll be there in a minute. Yeah, you can see him there. He's messing.
The city of Beverly Hills' sidewalk.
He's messing with his walkie-talkie there. Okay, get ready for this interaction.
It's just a school. They just don't want people. They don't know if you're like preying on the kids or whatever.
Did you guys hear that? Now, you can do it on your own system and really crank it up. I got it as loud as I can get it here. Basically, this guy is now talking to Furry saying, hey, it's a school here. And they're just wondering why you're recording them. So he's trying to help and interact. And Furry is refusing to talk at this time, which is kind of common for Furry. She doesn't talk much. She doesn't. So that's the witness in the interviews? Well, I mean, yeah, I think he's wearing the same pants, huh? Huh, Joshua? Yeah, I mean, he confronts Furry, and on behalf of the guard, I guess he went out looking around too because he was told someone had a camera. So at this point, this is what he's just trying to find out himself. You hear him? That's the only thing. That he's trying to say. That's the only thing they're concerned with. This would have been, I mean, truth be told, this would have been an opportune time. This would have been an opportune time to fix this situation if Furry had maybe said something. Okay, I'm going to get myself a little smaller here. Hold on a second. I know people are complaining. There we go. I'm going to put myself tiny. Less of me. Okay, there we go. Is that good for you, Carolina? I mean, we get 73 people in here, but I got to help my fellow Texans. Sorry. If you're not from Texas, I don't hate you, but I have fellow Texans in here.
Weird. What an idiot. I'm sitting here taking a picture of a building because I think it's pretty neat with all this like Jewish, not artifacts, but like drawings, not drawings, but like, how do I say it? Like sculptures and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you notice from that point on, he pretty much is walking around with his hand on his gun. Just that in general. On a sidewalk that he's not authorized to protect or shouldn't even be on. He has no authority outside of that's the school property. Which the second, if you look right on the bottom of the screen, you can see where that gate ends. Do you see that paint on the ground? That's where school property ends. So watch.
Then you had Superman come over here and try to do something. Where's Superman at? Where'd Superman go? Did he fly away? I think he did, everybody. I think Superman flew away. He's like, I don't want to get furrified. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Furry's my kryptonite. Oh, shoot.
Okay, what I'm going to do at this point, and I think now is a good time to have our officer, first one of the night, call in. So if you're ready, please dial in, and we can get this going here to where we can start to analyze this. Now, because I know his point of view on this. So hopefully we can get this going. Here we go. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hang on, please.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Now.
Hello, Steve. Can I say Steve, or do I call you by your bear name?
Just call me Steve.
Okay.
Okay, what is it? We can start going through. I know there are some things you mentioned about the recording, but I don't know what you want to say about yourself. If you can give a little bit of your background. I understand that you're an active duty police officer, and just being on this stream can probably get you into trouble.
Stay where you're at. You're good. Hey, well, I would like to just sort of give a preemptive comments, too, before I begin. Number one, I want to give a background on Steve. Steve is not braggadocious. He don't talk much about himself. But Steve is has a very extensive radio background. And I bring this up for martial arts training and combat training. He was a color commentary for the World Combat League and worked for Chuck Norris. He did all the radio interviews and stuff for the Texas Martial Arts Hall of Fame. He's on a first-name basis with all the who's who legendary martial artists. And when I had my open fight class with world-class legendary world champion fighters, even fighting bare knuckles, Steve was right in the middle of that. So, and he's a master, a legitimate master in two different styles of martial arts. So I bring this up because I want you to understand his background when he gives his point of view, because he won't say this about himself, so I'm going to do this, kind of brag on him a little bit. But he's also an avid firearms shooter. He's an avid long-range shooter. He's not by all means tactically trained. I've given him some basic introduction to tactical shooting a little bit, but he's very experienced in firearms and long-range shooting. And I want to point this out because when Steve gives a point of view, I want you to understand that he has a experience in these things. So there's a little bit of meat on the bone there when he gives a comment. So I want to point that out to Steve, because Steve is a very humble guy. He would never say this, so I'm going to say this. Also, the second preemptive comment is all the ugly comments I read on the show last week. And number one, a lot of ugly, derogatory, childish, very inappropriate, demeaning comments. One against law enforcement, which, that's their world. They're used to getting cussed, spit on, and that's their world. If they wanted to be liked, they'd be firemen. But no, they chose to put their life on the line for folks that don't like them. That's just kind of their thing. And the other derogatory, ugly, demeaning comments they made about Fuzzy and her
Furry
being a transgender.
You mean furry?
And that was so inappropriate and uncalled for. And dude, this is not a personal attack against the individuals and their points of view. This is an adult debate over a incident, and if the childish comments, if you don't have the mental and emotional capability skills to have an adult debate, you should go to the children's table and not go to the adult table and engage in adult conversation and debate. And I realize there's going to be a lot of people that doesn't agree with my point of view, and I like to see them and hear them because I learned from this. It's an ongoing learning process, and it broadens my point of view as well. So there's going to be a lot of different hard point of views that are negative against other people's point of view. Well, negative because they're not for it, so it's not going to be positive. And we understand this, but the derogatory comments, below the belts, demeaning, derogatory, ugly stuff, I'm not for that. That's not what I stand for, and I guarantee you that's not what Steve stands for, and that's not what he's for. That's why he deleted the comment. So I wanted to preempt my point of view and say this so you'll understand the integrity of Steve and what he's trying to do.
Okay. First thing is, her name is Furry, not Fuzzy, just to correct you on that. Furry.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Furry Potato, yeah.
And hey, and I'll tell you, I'll make a lot of mistakes with him and her, and I'll try not to do that. And it's not derogatory. It's not demeaning in any way. Forgive me if I mess up. Please correct me, and I'll correct myself. Okay, so where do we begin, Steve? Let me know.
Well, I've basically gotten the videotape up to about 30 seconds into the encounter with the security guard. Now, I know you wanted to talk about some movement between the two, the chess match. You want to elaborate on that, or just bring yourself into that any way you want? I know we talked about the primary aggressor.
Let me first of all give you the perspective of someone that's going to. And my point of view is when it's being investigated by law enforcement, how they're going to look at it and how they're going to investigate it. Now, the laws are different in California than they are in Texas, and certain things are different. However, that being said, context. You got to look at the context of both sides and the overall view of what's going on, the totality events and overall picture. You can't just go down the very narrow view of Furry and his video and his projected context. I'm sorry, my bad. Forgive me. So, first of all, I'm going to go with, I'm going to flat out tell you right off the bat, Furry is the primary aggressor to this incident, period. Primary aggressor. Security guard screwed up. He made a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to cover that after I go over why I put Furry as the primary aggressor to the incident, because he precipitated it, or she precipitated it, completely precipitated it, with a key word I'm going to repeat a lot, and I want you guys to pay attention, and that is deliberate, provocative behavior. So I'm going to say this a lot. I want you to understand deliberate, provocative behavior. First of all, we got to look at context. I'm going to discuss context, and I'm going to discuss this as if I'm investigating this. Context is you got to look at the history of the location. It's a synagogue/school. Look at all the violence that occurs there. This is not paranoia. This is a real thing. Even 4 months ago in October, they had a mass shooting in a synagogue in this country. So this is not paranoia. If you think it's paranoia, talk to some of the victims of the last mass shooting if they think it's paranoia. So from the law enforcement perspective, you got to look at everything. I've seen the video initially. Last week, you heard me say a lot when we were commenting on the first video where we went live when he got shot. I kept saying over and over and over again, I need to see the before video. I need to see the before video. I need to say before video. And you can watch it and see that I continuously say this. And then we saw the before video, which came second, where some of the events leading up to it. He begins by videotaping these schoolgirls walking in and out of the building, commenting on what they're wearing. and you got to look at not the narrow perspective of his video and what he's narrating in his context. You got to look at it as if you're watching him from a distance. You don't know what he's saying, and you're not watching his YouTube video. You're watching him from a distance. And this goes back to deliberate, provocative behavior. And I didn't know till the Inside Edition thing that he actually went into the school doing this thing. He's dressed in kind of a black tactical, I'm not really tactical, but black gear. He's wearing a backpack. He has this video thing. And I saw some of it when they showed the other auditors showing up and having conflicts with people that were there that doing videotape. And this is kind of an awkward-looking machine, the camera. They don't know what the hell it is. So this guy goes into this location that has a history. This history is very validated. If you don't think it's validated, I'll go back to the analogy that Steve used of go to a public park and do the same thing where children are playing, and you will get you'll get a very heated response. And it's the same thing. Now you can argue semantics. So what if they were in a public park videotaping a game and all this other stuff? Well, that's not the context. It's not a good argument. So context. You got to look at context. You got to look at what both sides are thinking. So the school's on alert because he went into the building. They know she's there, and she starts her videotaping the girls walking in and out of school. They're already on alert. They already know that this person's out there and they're watching. Fuzzy walks to the corner across the street, and then has the security guard videotaping him. Furry knows they're on alert. He's been videotaping. He even makes comments about, hey, look, I've got a fish biting in my bait. Look at this guy. His videotaping is wrong, and comments on that he's not doing it right and all this other stuff. Walks across the street, down the road, keeps videotaping across the street where the security guard's on alert and videotaping him. Meanwhile, context inside the school, they're on alert. Hey, this is going on. This is weird. This is not normal behavior. This is keyword provocative, deliberate provocative behavior. He goes down. He catches a block. He goes behind the building. When he goes behind the building, he catches up to the synagogue. He starts /school. This is a school also. He's videotaping the doors. He's videotaping the camera positions in the windows. Now, if you look at his narrow perspective through his video, he's narrating like he's very interested in the beauty of the glass and look at these pictures behind the glass and all the glass. The people on their side are not seeing that. They're watching him in those video cameras because they're on alert. This individual videotaping the door, the back door, the windows, and the security positions. Goes to the history of the place, violent attacks against synagogues and Jewish people. Back in October, mass shooting at a synagogue. They're on high alert. On the news report, you can hear that they actually go into lockdown mode. They're on alert. Furry knows this. Furry plays with this. Then you see him walk around the corner, and then he engages a security guard. That's when they have their interaction between them. Security guard makes lots of mistakes. I'll cover it after that. The security guard is not tactically trained, and I'll explain some of the actions that he took that explain he's not tactically trained. He may be some sort of firearms instructor or whatever, but he's not tactically trained. So context of all the before, he makes contact with a security guard. And all of the deliberate, provocative behavior.
Damn.
Okay, so when he's making contact with a security guard, sorry. I'm a goober, y'all. Throw rocks at me. Okay, so all this is going on. There's all this context added to this. The security guard at one point walks up to Fuzzy, holds his hand in a stop position, and says, in broken English, says, "Hey, don't you think about doing anything crazy up in here?" That tells you they're in heightened alert. They're scared of what may happen with this. At one point, during this, and it's a long video, Furry starts playing with the security guard's distance, closing the distance on him. Even though it's a public place, the context of the before, this security guard's out there protecting the school. The perimeter of the school, the actual walls of the school are in a public place. You can be in a public place and reach out and touch the walls of the school. Most schools, synagogues, don't have this type of dynamic unless they're in some sort of inner city type of environment. Most of them have, like Steve said before, a big long area between the actual school and where the actual public places are. So this is a unique dynamic, and I think that it's chosen for that, and chosen for the history of that, because Furry's wanting a alert response. So looking at the context and the before, they're on high response. They're in lockdown mode. They're watching Furry do all this on their video cameras behind their building prior to all this, before you see this interaction. And when Furry's not saying nothing. At one time, that dude walks out from the school and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, we're just wanting to know what you're doing. We're scared here." He's communicating to Furry, "Hey, we're scared here. We're on alert. What are you doing?" Furry chooses not to talk to him. Again, this goes to deliberate, provocative behavior. Right there, like Steve said, he could have diffused the situation by saying, "Hey, I'm just here exercising my First Amendment rights in a public place and videotaping this building, and I'm interested in all the context."
Okay, one thing real quick. We found out that when Furry said she entered the building, she was actually talking about a previous synagogue and not this one. So she never entered this place. I just wanted to get that out there. So that was a previous one she was talking about, not this one. So that being said, that being said, I need to say something. This is where we disagree, and I think this is where we were going at it last night. Was that, and it's been said over and over again. They're on high alert. They're on this, and that, but it doesn't trump my rights. When they do something like that, it doesn't trump my rights. They can be scared all they want. There's danger walking out in public every day. Try walking in Chicago. Okay, so what I'm saying is they're on high alert, yes, and I understand that the current atmosphere we're living in today, but that does not trump the rights of the public to do what they're doing. I understand the whole situation. I'm Jewish. Trust me, I understand the situation of what it's like to be a target. But the security guard has no right to be on the sidewalk telling her where she can and can't go. That being said, please continue.
Okay. Well, let's begin with what y'all perceive as restricted movement. The security guard walks up, and what does the security guard say? "Hey, don't do anything crazy up in here."
Also tried to restrict her movement twice, telling her she couldn't walk down the sidewalk. Put his hand up and said, "Don't." It happened twice in the video. I can play it. Well, protect the school in the school. You can't protect the school on a public sidewalk by impeding someone's walking. What they can do what they want on a public sidewalk, you can't impede them.
Well, from a public sidewalk, you can actually reach out and touch that school.
I understand that, but that doesn't.
This is a very unique situation.
It doesn't impede. Yeah, I know it's extremely. This is a fascinating situation because it challenges
yes, you're exactly
everything.
Right. You're
it
exactly
challenges
right. There's a lot of gray area here.
Yes, it challenges the rights. It challenges school safety. When does your rights end? Does it end? Because I'll tell you right now, where your rights end is when it endangers someone else. That's where your rights end. So this is where this gray area is, and I couldn't wait to get to this. That's why I got you here faster. I'm just saying.
Okay, listen. This gray area can easily be explained by saying if you have complete faith and commitment to that vernacular, then go do this crap in a public park when children are playing.
I
Go
understand.
Do it.
I
It's the
said
absolute
this.
most public place.
I said this, and I said
Absolute most public place.
and
you
I
don't
told
think those parents are going to go in alert mode and
Okay.
restrict your quote movement?
Okay, I told you before. You know me. I said if someone
Yes,
was ever
yes.
filming my kid, I would go up and confront them. If they
And
gave
listen,
me
I
if they gave me an attitude, they'd be in a pond with a rock tied to them. I'd go to jail with a smile
Well,
on
I
my
wouldn't-
face.
I wouldn't go that far, but listen.
I'm just saying, when it comes to my
and
kid,
I
yeah.
appreciate it because it gives both points of view, and both points of view are very valid to a certain extent. But if you discount everything that happened before, okay, so let's say he didn't go into that school, he starts the video, or she starts the video with videotaping the kids walking in and out of there, puts the school on high alert. They're trained because of the history of that place, and it's not paranoia. It's a real history of violence. And they're trained, if you see something, say something. They said something, school goes on high alert. So all the deliberate, provocative behavior leading up to this has the school on lockdown. Prior to the security guard making contact with them, they said so on the news report. And things he did walking behind the video. Don't look down the narrow tube of his video and what he's narrating or she's narrating. Look at what's going on. So when the security guard comes out there, does the security guard make mistakes? Dude, I'm telling you, I'm going to cover after this the mistakes the security guard made. The security guard screwed up on a lot of levels. So it's a mistake on both parts. But the primary aggressor to this whole thing is Furry. Initiated the whole confrontation with deliberate, provocative behavior and got the response she absolutely wanted. Very refined in what she does and how she does it. When when the security guard walks up to Furry, at any time, Furry, and even that other person, anytime Furry can say, hey, I'm just exercising my First Amendment rights, I'm videotaping here, that's what I'm doing. And it would have put them somewhat at ease. They would say, okay, this person's not going to nutbag this, they're going to shoot the place up or blow it up. So this security guard comes out here and does this, hey, don't do anything crazy up in here. Furry starts playing with the security guard's distance, starts approaching closer, doing certain things with the deliberate intention of provocative behavior to make this person more scared. Push the buttons, play with this, let's see if we can get a big response to make my great, wonderful, action-packed video. Period. That's what's occurring there. At one time, Furry closes the distance on this person, and the person reaches for the gun and pulls it out, doesn't point at him, and points it to the ground, puts his hand out in the stop position. Hey, stop. Don't come any closer. At that time, it's self-preservation for this guy. And you have to look at his culture and where he's from. He comes from a place where this is not a mass shooting. This is a detonation. You're going to get blown up. And he's in detonation range, and he's going to get killed. That leads to his fear. He's scared. His body language, everything he's doing, he's on high alert. He's scared. Very scared. Goes to his lack of training and everything, which I'll cover later, and he makes mistakes. And Furry, at one point, starts getting closer to him. And when he gets closer, the security guard backs up. And then he gets closer, the security guard backs up.
Do you remember the timestamp on the video when that's happening so I can go to it?
It's after the point where it's during the point also when the security guard pulls his gun. It's the point when, and you know what? And let me preface this. I came out and went varmint hunting. I had this legal pad, and I wrote lots of beautiful, wonderful notes with case law and all this other stuff. And me being me, I was in a hurry to get out to do some varmint hunt to get a last slide hunt in, and I left that along with one of my lights. So, and the person I'm hunting with, I told him that, and he's getting a good laugh over it. Dude, I spent lots of time writing down the actual times and case laws and all this other stuff. It was so beautifully written, I left the damn thing. So all that time is for nothing. Isn't that awesome? I'm such a goober. Anyway, So anyway, at the point where the guy pulls the gun, puts it out, and he constantly holds his hands in the stop position. He's wanting to stop and restrict his movement, not to walking up and down the sidewalk, but he's thinking of the school, the children inside the school that he's there to protect, and that they're in lockdown mode and they're in high alert. And he's afraid of Furry, totally afraid of Furry. And you can see that in his movements and what he does. And then the whole time he has his hand in the stop position.
Okay.
Well, when Furry approaches him, which is after the time that he pulls his gun, and during the time he pulls his gun, Furry approaches the security guard, and the security guard backs up a little bit, pulls his gun out. After the part where the gun comes out, then when Furry approaches the security guard backs up. He approaches him, the security guard backs up. Furry gives him an angle and literally herds him like a cow into this little corner by this gate area that later he's behind when he shoots. And you can tell this security guard, look at his body language. He's terrified. He's totally scared. He's terrified. And at one point, there's a person that walks out of that gate behind him, and he literally jumps through his damn skin and, pisses himself almost. And
but that being said, do you think someone with a little more training wouldn't have been like this? I mean,
yes.
Okay, so
yes.
So you have to say that this guy's lack of training, mental preparedness, and probably mentality fed into this, correct?
Yes and no. You cannot excuse this thing called deliberate provocative behavior.
I knew you were going there. I'm feeding you this stuff, and I shouldn't be. Okay, I understand that, and this is where we have, the confrontation. These things cause a confrontation, but yet the things that cause the confrontation are constitutionally protected, and that's where we have this issue. That's where this whole issue, everything that caused this confrontation, is constitutionally protected. So what do we do with that? What do we do with that?
We live in a public place. There's a point in time where your constitutional rights end and begin where it impedes on other people's.
Yes, we talked about this.
Yes, and this deliberate provocative behavior. Now, listen, school shootings, attacks on synagogues. I mean, you got to look at the pretext on the other side. Now, what I'm talking about is the pretext on the other side. You've got to understand both sides. You can't look down the narrow view of Furry's video and the context Furry's giving you. You got to look at the context of the other side. The other side, they're on high alert because his deliberate provocative behavior, and they're on lockdown during this time. So, did he make mistakes? And I'm going to cover it after. He made lots of mistakes, and he screwed up a lot. However, in Texas, you got free speech. You go in a public place and you start cussing someone, and you use very vulgar. What am I trying to say? Vulgar language. Yeah, I'm a screw up. Vulgar language, and saying horrible, ugly things that I won't say on this radio to somebody, and they find it offensive. Well, guess what? That's a criminal offense called disorderly conduct. You got women and children. You're saying these hard things. Well, that's where your First Amendment rights in a public place go into criminal behavior because you're violating somebody else's.
Yeah.
I've got First Amendment rights.
What is it? Is it their pursuit of happiness? Is that what they're saying? If you're,
yes.
It's like what's happening on the screen right now. The security guard is panicking, but this guy's walking around like, he's looking at his phone like it's no big deal. So,
yes.
this...
And what Furry is... And during this time, Furry is playing with this. He's playing with it. He's pushing buttons.
She is.
I'm sorry. I'm a goober. She's playing with it. She's pushing the buttons. She's trying to get the biggest, most massive response that she can, and she's playing the buttons. Now, let's fast forward to the frame that I had beautifully on my notes with time stamps and everything, where she starts approaching the security guard, and the security guard starts backing up. And the security guard starts backing up. She approaches, security guard backs up. Approaches, security guard backs up. Angles left, angles right, approaches, security guard backs up. And then angles like hurting the security guard into this corner on the gate. and kind of gets him cornered and starts playing with his scared response. Gets him backed up to that gate to the point where I'm talking with a guy walks out and he jumps through his skin, and then he's sort of relieved when he sees it's someone he knows and he's not out there by himself. This guy is scared. And security guard, untrained, scared. He went and initiated contact with when he shouldn't have, and he realizes, hey, I screwed up. I shouldn't have made this contact with this person, and now I put myself in danger. And you got to look at his culture. You got to look where he's from, even though he's not disseminated this country. When we're investigating crimes in certain neighborhoods, we got to look at the culture. You go to a neighborhood that's a Hispanic culture, you've got to look at their point of view and their culture of why they did certain things they did. And you got to be sensitive to that. That's why we learn cultural diversity. We have to take all these classes all the time. You've got to look at racial sensitivity, cultural diversity, all these things. You got to look at, you go to primarily African-American community, there are certain cultures, certain things you've got to be sensitive to that dictate how they think and how they respond to things. You've got to be sensitive to this. This person's from Israel. This person is in a place where this is not a mass shooting. This is a detonation, and people within certain blast range are in pieces. So
yeah, well, maybe he should have learned about America before he came here.
So I'm going to his frame of mind. His frame of mind. He's in a danger zone. When there's a detonation, there's blast. Furry's wearing a backpack. Furry has this camera apparatus that looks awkward and has had all this keyword, deliberate, provocative behavior leading up to this to get this illicit response. Furry is getting what Furry wants, this scared response. So when Furry herds this person into the corner next to that iron gate thingy by the door, then Furry starts angling a little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit closer, starts pushing buttons. Let's see what kind of response I can get out of this guy by jacking with him. And the whole time, no verbal response. Now, I'm going to put a pause on that, and I'm going to talk about some training. The training is precursors to an attack. Precursors to attack. I teach a class, there's a law enforcement class, that is playing the angles. It's where you learn when you're making contact with an individual, you don't stand in their right in front of them in their railroad tracks, which is their line of attack, which every attack occurs in a straight line. You don't stand in the straight line, you stand in an off angle. And if someone's going to attack you, they have to adjust your angle before they attack you. It gives you more time to respond because reaction is slower than action. A trained, anticipated response on average is a second and a half reaction. That's 1,001, 1,000, boom. There's a lot of things that can happen in that amount of time. If you're untrained and you're not anticipating the attack, it can be up to 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds. A lot of stuff. I can cover a lot of ground and do a lot of nasty stuff in 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds or even in 1.5 seconds. So your training is to stand at off angles. So this person has to adjust your angle before they attack and they telegraph their attack. So then you look for what's called precursors to attack. 1,000-yard stare. Well, the first thing that occurs is they stop talking. They don't engage in conversation. They stop talking and being involved in the conversation. Furry's not talking. Then they have the 1,000-yard stare, the heavy breathing, the clenched fist, the lining up for attack, or what they call blading. And
well, yeah, and the sway happens from the adrenaline.
Right. And they're building up for an attack, and they're trying to set up their angle. When that happens, these precursors happen, the attack has already begun. This is a precursor to the attack. It's already started. These are what's called imminence of attack. At that point, you're justified at a certain point to use force because of the history of that. And I teach you the percentage. There is a certain percentage that you stop talking during the conversation, and you totally stop responding to verbal conversation before you start building up for attack. That's in the 70% top.
Yeah, let me stop you there for a second. Everybody that's listening right now, we are going over particulars in this. No one is justifying him shooting Furry. Not even close.
Absolutely.
No one is
right.
justifying it. We are talking about what led up to this so we can learn from this and change tactics on both sides of this, people.
Context. We're talking about context. On both sides.
He's never justified that shooting in the last stream or this one. So stop thinking for a second. Just because we're looking at both sides doesn't mean we're justifying both sides. Okay?
No, we're not.
I'm thinking Furry is the most innocent out of this thing, and I'm Jewish. You would think I'd be like, oh, it was in front of a Jewish synagogue, defending the synagogue, and Furry came up, and oh my God. No, not even close. So
okay,
and let me tell you something. I know you said Furry. Someone said Furry didn't look dangerous. How many suicide bombers were children? How dangerous did they look? I'm trying to put this from all different perspectives so we can take a look at it. If you refuse to look at this from multiple points of view, you are narrow-minded. Absolutely narrow-minded, and you will learn nothing from this. And that's why we have people in the chat that are just screaming up, oh, cops this, cops that. You've never looked at both sides of this. Try to look at every angle from this so you can learn something. That has been my MO since day one here. I never pick sides. I pick truth, and that's it.
Let me jump on your bandwagon, Steve. When you're filling out a probable cause affidavit to arrest somebody, when you're investigating this, you have to look at both sides and context. You can't look just down the narrow tube of Furry's video, or your probable cause affidavit is going to be very narrow, and there's going to be a lot of facts missed, and you don't have confidence in the absolute facts of all the big picture before you present that narrative, that probable cause affidavit that's going to cause someone to get arrested, which is a big thing because you're taking away their liberties, you're messing with their background, you're doing all this stuff. It's a big thing. So you over-investigate, over-investigate. You look at context, you look at both sides, you look at frame of mind, you look at culture, you look at everything, history of that place, because you want to be well-rounded in every point of view you possibly can, good or bad, and you beat yourself up to make sure you've covered every angle before you fill out that probable cause affidavit that's going to cause someone to lose their liberties and get arrested, have their background messed up, possibly lose their job, lose their income, have a life-changing event. You want to make sure, because that what goes in that probable cause affidavit is more than just a piece of paper. It's taking away someone's liberties, and you've got to take that seriously. So that's why I'm giving perspective, both sides. So let's go back to the playing the angles. You stand at an off angle, you look for precursors. When the precursors of the attack start, the attack is start. This is the 1,000-yard stare, the clenched fist, the blading, and the biggest thing that happens in all these videos and all this research of officers being attacked when interaction with someone is the very first thing they do is their conversation ceases. They stop engaging in the conversation. That means that they're thinking about building up. You need to be on alert. When someone stops talking to you, you better be on high alert. And then you look at physical indicators. They're angling. They start angling back and forth to try to get their straight line of attack so they can go. They're building up. They breathe heavy. They clench their fist. And they 1,000-yard stare, all these things. They breathe heavy. At certain times in this video, I hear Furry breathing heavy. Now, if you're on the other side of that, Furry may be totally scared. But Furry may be playing with deliberate provocative behavior. Furry's playing with this person's sensories that make him scared and make him on defense. And obviously this is occurring. So you start playing with my angles and my distance, you're going to meet my jab. I'm not going to wait to see what you're going to do when you start showing me precursors that you got purpose and bad intentions. I'm going to hit you back first. I'm not going to be a person that's trying to play catch up by reacting to your actions. Period. And you're a martial artist. You understand this. You understand the precursors of attack, and you understand that you hit back first. You see angling. You see clenched fist. You see this person's trying to line you up for a straight line of attack so he can blitz you and do his whatever. You've got to take action there if you're smart so you don't end up as a victim. Because it happens fast. Action is way faster than reaction. Okay? So that's one angle that you've got to consider, training, everything. And let's go back to Furry. Furry is closing the distance on this guy. Furry's playing with the angles. Furry uses the fact that this security guard backs up as he closes the distance and moves away, and angles and sort of uses that to hurt him into this corner next to this iron gate thingy by the door. And then Furry starts backing away from it. When Furry starts backing away from it, the security guard still kind of stays between. It's like he's trying to stay between her and the school, what he perceives as a threat that's in lockdown and is in highly alert mode because of all the precipitating things that happened prior to this. And they go down the sidewalk, and then Furry goes down the side of the building and he shows himself backing up, and then you see him playing peekaboo around the corner, which goes to this guy's not trained. If this guy was trained, he wouldn't stay right next to the corner. He would index the corner, which means he would swing wide. He wouldn't suck in close to the corner. And then when Furry starts closing the distance, you almost see in his body language, oh, thank God she's leaving. Thank God. And then distance occurs. Furry goes behind the building and then starts giving the projected context of Furry's video. Hey, this guy pulled a gun on me. This guy restricted my move. This guy held me against my will, and starts interjecting context. Hey, don't pay attention to everything I'm doing. Pay attention to the context I'm saying. Very refined in what she does. And while she's doing that, what's happening? We've already know behind the building there's cameras because she filmed them and she showed them, hey, there's a camera there, there's a camera there, there's a camera there. They're on high alert. They're on lockdown. They're watching the cameras. What are they seeing on the cameras from a distance? They're not watching Furry's video and Furry's narration and Furry's context that she's saying. They're seeing this individual, after all of this that happens prior to this, pacing back and forth and talking to herself and behind the building. What does that look like from a distance? That looks like a person building up to do something really crazy after all of this. And at that time, Furry could have completely walked away, and this incident would have been over. At any time, Furry could have walked away, and this wouldn't have happened. What does Furry do? Furry walks around and re-engages.
Yes.
Knowing of all the precursors, all the deliberate provocative behavior, all of the fear, all of the crap, goes back and re-engages in the situation.
Okay, this is where I agree with you on the context of, yeah, if someone just pulled a gun on me and I am unarmed and I was away from that situation, I would probably call the police at that point and say, hey, a security guard just pulled a gun on me. I don't think I would go back into that situation unless I had a reason to, whether, they were holding someone at gunpoint. That's a different situation. But at that point, I don't understand. And this, like I said, this is me. This is the difference between me and her. Furry went back into the situation. She had every right to. We can talk about common sense, whatever. That doesn't make a difference here. But she had every right to do what she did.
We have to talk about context.
I understand that. I understand that.
Context,
and you say she went back to deliberately provoke him. I see you caught me now. Yes, thanks. I pulled a U. So
I feel so glad that I'm not the only dummy.
That's it. Thanks.
That's
okay. So yeah, you got me going. So you're saying that she went back to deliberately provoke him further. Well, you can say that, but it doesn't mean you're correct. It doesn't mean you're correct. You're assuming, based on the evidence you have we're talking context, you're assuming that that's what she did. So you can't say that. You can't enter someone's brain and say why they did something. You have to listen to them say, I went back for whatever reason. And
no, you're right. What you have to look at is this thing that I keep bringing up: deliberate, provocative behavior. That's what you have to look at, not what's being said. The deliberate, provocative behavior. Going back to re-engage the security guard with more deliberate, provocative behavior. At any time, Furry could have started saying, hey, this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. No.
Oh, hold on, everybody. By the way, he did watch the videos. He watched both of them. So just letting you know. I know people are saying you didn't watch the videos. You did. So
I watched both of them.
Yeah.
And the last week's show, I kept saying over and over and over again, I need to see the before video. I need to see the before video because I wanted to see what led up to this because context.
Okay.
So,
now you take all this context, though. Listen, you take all this context out of here. And it really doesn't matter. Let me go ahead and stop this. I'm going to get this off the screen, or I'll just...
What do you mean context doesn't matter?
Hold on. Listen to what I'm going to say. I just had to stop this for a second.
Okay.
I'm going to switch the
Sorry,
screens
buddy.
here. Okay. You see, we can go over context, which is basically trying to get in her brain. But at the same time, when it comes to the law, she did not break a single law. The police in the area said she did not break a single law. Even the news reported that she did not break a single law. She had every right to do this.
So the news is right?
Let me finish. She had every right to do this, no matter how upset anybody got. Now, she has the law and the Constitution behind her. How are we going to say otherwise? I mean, we could talk about context till we're blue in the face, and I understand where you're coming from. Trust me.
Well, I'm giving you the perspective of someone that's looking at the overall context,
and I'm trying to give you the perspective
because we're
of
investigating a situation whether charges should be filed or not.
And I'm trying to give you the perspective of a regular citizen, because we look at this like this is my First Amendment right. Your feelings, your fear and your scare doesn't trump my rights. That's from our point of view, but we have the Constitution to back that.
No, stop right there. Stop right there. Provocative, deliberate.
Well, you say that, but
behavior.
your provocative behavior doesn't trump my Constitution. It doesn't negate it. Excuse me.
If you put me in threat, it does. You'll enjoy that constitutional open public place from the unconscious.
I see. There you go. Now, okay, good. I'm glad we're here. Good. I'm glad you said that. Now, does the Constitution? The Constitution gives you the right to say whatever you want in public. Does the Constitution protect you?
No, not everything you want. Within means.
You're within means. You're within means. You can't. Yes, you can't. You can't threaten directly. Okay, you can't do an imminent threat on somebody. I understand that. Okay, but what I'm saying is, you can walk up to a police officer and flip him off, and you're probably not going to get a response from them. But if you walk up to a common citizen and flip them off, what's going to happen? You're free to do it. Perfectly within your rights. Are you free from the consequences? Are you free from the consequences?
What you're saying in law, the Supreme Court says if you're a police officer, you cannot yourself be offended, so they can flip you off all day long.
Yeah.
However, if there's a citizen behind you that finds that to be incredibly offensive because their children's watching, and you're flipping them off and you're saying the F word and words that I can't even pronounce on a public stream, then you committed disorderly conduct. But not because the officer's offended, because someone else is offended. So there's this fine line of where your constitutional rights begin and end. Can you say whatever you want to in public? Absolutely. Can you do whatever you want to in a public place? Okay. Be in a public place with a crowd and yell fire, 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 and have and play with. And once again, this goes to deliberate provocative behavior. Fire, fire, fire. This whole panic thing erupts. People get trampled. People whatever. You have culpability in what you did because of deliberate provocative behavior to elicit a response that would cause people to be alert, alarmed, a normal, reasonable, prudent person to be alarmed. You can call the police and give a scenario, hey, this is what's going on. If a normal, reasonable, prudent person would react in such a way they would call police and fire department to the scene and it was false, then you've committed a criminal offense. So there's legalities both ways. But back to where, before I get lost and my ADD kicks in and you distract me with shiny stuff and squirrels, the part where he starts playing with the security guard's angles him into that corner and does all this stuff and then walks away and then comes back and re-engages. The context of everything that's happened in, an hour into all this, then the security guard's behind the gate. Let's go to the shooting. Security guards behind that little that gate fence thingy that's, I guess, it's like a causeway before you actually gain entrance into the school/synagogue. And then that security guard pulls the gun and he's standing in the low ready position and he's pacing back and forth. I guarantee you, because of all the context there, that security guard is saying to himself and has made the decision, that gate is the Alamo. That gate is the line in the sand. You enter that gate, I'm going to light you up. Because all that's happened prior to this, all the culture, all the history of that place, which is why that place was chosen, threat. opens that gate and enters, that security guard intentionally points the gun at Furry and lights him up. That gate is the line in the sand. That's the Alamo. Security guards pacing back and forth, height alert. What does Fuzzy do? Does Fuzzy create distance with the gate? No.
Furry.
She gets
Furry.
close to the gate and films up and down and all this other stuff, tries to push the buttons. She realizes as all this is going on, hey, let's keep pushing the buttons because I want to make my great, wonderful video with action-packed. This individual, when he says he fired this warning shot, it wasn't a warning shot. From all that I've seen, I've watched it over and over again, it's an accidental discharge because the way he's holding the gun, his finger's on the trigger, regardless if he's a trained firearm instructor, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If he was, his finger would be indexed, which means it would be pointing out away from the trigger guard. No, his middle finger is on the trigger. What the hell is that?
Okay,
I mean,
I have a question for you.
I
have a question for you from someone. And you'd mentioned this a few times. The question is from someone. Describe, and let me make sure I get this this right. Let's see here.
As long as it's not complex math or spelling or anything like that.
Okay, explain perceived threat laws to clarify. Perceived threat laws. Please explain.
Perceived threat laws. You're in a public place that's open to everybody, exercising your First Amendment rights, and people respond more to body language than they do spoken words. So if you're saying nice, wonderful things to someone, but your body language is clenched fist, heavy breathing, 1,000-yard stare, pacing back and forth, they're going to clue in on your body language, not what you're saying, and you're going to put them in threat mode. And that person at one point feels, oh, man, I'm fixing to get my butt kicked, and then lashes out to defend themselves because you put them in total fear. Perceived threat. Perceived threat is your actions and things that you do that put people in high alert, make people fear you, make people scared of what you're doing because of your body language and what you're doing. It goes back to deliberate, provocative behavior that causes someone to be scared of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at any time, and by the way, at any time, Furry, she could have called the cops and says, hey, my rights are being violated. She does not.
Can I ask you a question? Let me stop you right there because I asked that same thing. And then when the words came out of my house, and when the words came out of my mouth, it's late, guys. I've been up all day long. When the words came out of my mouth, I thought to myself, a person that constantly seems to have bad experiences with police is not going to bring police immediately in on this situation. To her fault, maybe, correct. I don't know, but she's not really going to be calling police because it seems to be a problem when they show up to a situation like that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at this from her point of view.
And what are you doing What are you doing when you're doing that? You're doing what I'm doing. You're looking at context.
Absolutely.
History,
yeah. Like
culture,
I said.
Frame of mind. People believe what they see, not what they hear. So your body language is everything. People perceive what they see. So they're hearing you say great, wonderful things, and they're complimenting you on how pretty and awesome and whatever you are. But your body language is clenched fists, heavy breathing, 1,000-yard stare, pacing back and forth. They don't care what you're saying. They believe what they see, not what they hear. And subconsciously, the subconscious part of your brain is focused in on that person's body language, not what they're saying. It's like the whole thing of, that dating thing, that where they concentrate on their body language more than what they're saying, and that gets their great first impression. They believe in what they see and what they perceive more than what's actually going on. Yeah, I don't want to hear I love you. I want to see you love me. I want to see. I want to, they believe what they see, not what they hear. So before this squirrel and shiny stuff gets me off track here, because I'm breaking this down from an investigative point of view, not everybody else's rights and all this stuff, how it's going to be looked at from a law enforcement perspective. Re-engaged at the gate because of everything that happened an hour before, and then leaves and then comes back, and when they leave, seen on camera pacing back and forth like they're building up. This is their view from a distance, not not watching the video or hearing what Fuzzy's saying, this person who's from Israel, who's used to being not a active shooter, but an active detonation explosion and all this other stuff that you put in this perceived and everything else, is in a high alert. And I guarantee you, if Fuzzy would have opened that gate, this person would have intentionally pointed the gun at Fuzzy and emptied it on him, and pissed themselves at the same time, waiting for this detonation to happen and the big explosion that happens in this person's culture, background, and upbringing. And he doesn't do that. When he's pacing back and forth, he's doing the whole thing. He has his middle finger on the trigger. He doesn't index it, all this stuff. Mistake. Bad. This person bends down. When this person bends down, this person has an accidental discharge. This bullet glances off the pavement, and fragments from that bullet hits Furry, not the bullet. Fragments from the from fragments. Mm-hmm. So, if then this person trying to look like they're in control and they're not scared and they're somebody you should be respectful to, is not going to say, oh, we kind of messed up a little bit. They're going to make it, oh, that's a warning shot, and I didn't mean to hit you. No, I don't think that was a warning shot. That was an accidental discharge because you're a dumbass and you did a bad thing. You messed up and you're amped up and you're whatever. That was an accidental discharge. Now, if the security guard says no, I really did fire a warning shot, then at that point in Texas, not in California, I'm speaking of Texas, I have no experience in California law, that security guard has criminal culpability, and it's not intentionally, knowingly, it's more recklessly of not aggravated assault because didn't intentionally, knowingly fire the bullet at the person with the intent to hurt the person. He recklessly hurted the person because fired in his direction, and it skipped off the pavement. So deadly conduct would be the correct charge. Now, if that person said it was an accidental discharge, I was panicked, I did whatever, I bent over and this damn gun went off, I did not intend to do that. That security guard at that point has in Texas, not in California, I can't speak for California. California is famous of making arrests that satisfies the public in the political correct climate and letting the grand jury sort it all out. But in Texas, there would be no arrest, and they would do the whole investigation. They'd write it all up. They'd present it to a grand jury. If a grand jury found that this person was culpable of a crime, the grand jury would issue an indictment warrant. That's how this would occur in Texas. Yeah. Unless the security guard said, I fired a warning shot and it went bad. Then you have absolute criminal culpability, deadly conduct, or aggravated assault on a reckless level. However, if it was an accidental discharge, there's no criminal culpability. No criminal culpability at all. In fact, to a certain extent in Texas, Furry would be bordering on the lines of disorderly conduct because of the, once again, deliberate provocative behavior. When there's an assault, when you're, as a officer, you go out, you have to learn this thing called primary aggressor. The primary aggressor is more difficult in the context of which it's taught, which is the family violence situation, which means that an assault occurs between anybody that is married, family members, had a past relationship, ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, or they're just simply roommates. And you've got to determine primary aggressor. And you go into this redneck Jerry Springer disturbance that all this crazy stuff occurred long before they called the cops like this. And they're saying, well, yeah, we were talking to him about him. He never washes dishes, cleans his room, and his dog's crap all over the house. And he got butthurt, and he started blowing up and acting like he was going to get all physical on us and everything. So then at one point we just punched him in the mouth. Well, then you've got to determine, and there was a big argument that was initiated by the victim that led to the physical confrontation. You've got to determine at what point who the primary aggressor is in the incident, who the primary aggressor is in initiating the violence. Okay? This security guard, in my point of view, from what I saw in the video, did not intentionally, knowingly precipitate the violence.
Okay. One second, and before I let you go, because I really have to get on to the next caller, the other police officer. But I disagree with you. I mean, this guy was prepared to do it, and he was shaking so bad for whatever reason. He was pumped up on adrenaline, had the wrong finger on the trigger. Okay, I understand. But what I'm saying is his intent. His intent. I think. I mean, we can speculate on that, but I mean, we don't know for sure. All we know is that he actually pulled the trigger. That's what we know.
Yes.
Wrong. End of story. We know this. So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to round off if you have anything else to say. And then hopefully our other officer has been like waiting patiently and we can get him to call in. I am not going to take any phone calls from anybody other than the other police officer. We're already on an hour and a half and I'm trying to move this along the best I can.
Yes, so, I want to go kill coyotes.
Yeah, I know. You're out he's in the middle of a field right now, and I'm jealous because I would really like to be hunting right now. So, yeah, finish up, a couple of minutes, quick statement, any way you want to end this, and then we'll move on.
Quick statement before I wrap this up. Not all auditors use deliberate, provocative behavior to elicit some big response so they can have good video. I've only seen one auditor in a situation with a small town in North Texas where the auditor's videotaping the outside of the city hall and the police department after hours. The officer approaches, and this auditor is friendly. This auditor totally explains what he's doing and why he's doing it. And even when the officer becomes agitated and irritated because this auditor doesn't do exactly what this officer asked him to do, this auditor explains exactly why. Hey, this is why I'm not doing it. This is whatever. This auditor did everything great, and I wanted to kiss him in the mouth. I mean,
okay, man, that's your thing. Look, I ain't saying anything bad about that.
Not all auditors use this thing, deliberate, provocative behavior, to elicit a response. Some of them don't do that. Some of them actually, not only are they exercising their First Amendment right, they do it in the right way. Had the auditor that I'm referring to did what this, had Furry done what this auditor done, the conflict would have been over, period. From a investigator standpoint, the security guard made lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
There should have been the cops should have been called long before this, and we don't know that the cops weren't called and they had a slow, long response. That happens in a busy place. I've been on that end of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Furry could have called the cops at any time saying, hey, my rights is being violated. So there's culpability on both sides of mistakes. Looking at the context, the location chosen, the history of the location, lots of violence against synagogues and school. Back in October, a mass shooting there. It's still on the emotions of that. And all the provocative the hour and whatever it is of deliberate provocative behavior leading up to all the interactions. You have to look at the big, broad context, and that's how the investigator is going to look at it, right or wrong. That's how they're going to look at it, because they want to make sure they got the whole big picture before they fill out that probable cause affidavit, to understand that what they believe happened from their investigative efforts is what they're putting in that probable cause affidavit before someone's liberties are taken away, period. That's it. And security guards screwed up, made mistakes. The school screwed up, made mistakes. However, the auditor went into this situation with, quote, deliberate, provocative behavior to elicit this exact response to make a great video, period. And it's very apparent. And you can argue semantics, kind of like in the schoolyard. Hey, I'm videotaping children. Well, what if they were videotaping a soccer game or a football game? Well, that's not the exact same context, so that's really not a good semantic argument. Oh, what about, or like one news person said, well, the paranoia of the synagogue does not justify their actions. Really? Well, why don't you go tell that synagogue that was in the school shooting or the synagogue mass shooting in Pittsburgh back in October about paranoia, or any Jew that's been in some place other than America where they are tormented and suicide bombers and where this security guard came from.
But that's why we're not that country, though. And I have to let you go on this because I really, really need to move this along if we're going to get the other officer in here at all.
I understand. I understand. And by the way, I've seen a lot of negative comments as far as negative towards my point of view. I'm not offended or butthurt or anything about that. I like that because I want to see that point of view. I want to understand what other people think and what they perceive, because this is what's called a, quote, healthy debate. And this is what Steve's about. This is what this show's about. So I really want to see even the negative comments that I'm wrong. I want to hear why I'm wrong, because when I'm investigating the next situation, I want to hear what other people see and perceive that make me think I'm not right, because I learned from that, and I consider that when I'm looking at the broad, quote, perspective of a big event. And and you guys have such intelligent, other than the comments that were ugly and derogatory, there's a lot of great, wonderful, intelligent, negative comments towards what I said and what Steve said and what anybody says that was very constructive and very well articulated. That was awesome, and I want to see those. I learned from that. This is a learning process. We're having a dialogue that helps us learn in this great constitutional republic, the great debate that makes us the great country we are, unlike any other country in the history of the world.
Okay. Well, on that, you go and you finish your hunting trip, and I'm going to try to get our other police officer on. Hopefully he's been listening and he can call in now. Anybody else that has the call-in number, do not call in. I'm not going to engage in any of the conversation. You have yourself a good evening, and thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Steve, and thank listeners. Y'all guys have great comments and very constructive, intelligent comments. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Okay. My head's spinning. Oh, my God. Oh, dear God, help me. Okay. Now, I don't know if the other officer is going to call in, and I at this point, I'm wondering if I want another caller right now. I don't know if I want one. I wanted another perspective. Yes, Sarah, my brain's fried right now. Yeah, my brain is fried. Oh, by the way, if you're saying I need Jesus, I am a Messianic Jew, which means I'm a Christian. I'm a Jew that has accepted Christ. Just so you understand that. You see, I need Jesus. Yeah, I'm a Messianic Jew. I'm a Christian. So, look, this officer is a friend of mine. We disagree on this. I can't begin to tell you the arguments we have. Unbelievable arguments. Yeah, being deliberately provocative. Yeah, my show is deliberately provocative. We have arguments about this, guys, over and over again. And my whole deal is I don't care. I mean, I understand we've lost kids in school shootings. I understand that. But you're not getting my guns. Your dead doesn't trump my Constitution. Your fear, your whatever you can come up with. I don't care how afraid you are. If you're so afraid in your school and you can't protect your students in a school, then guess what? You shouldn't have the school open. You shouldn't. Your fear, your paranoia, everything that you have doesn't trump my rights. It doesn't trump my rights. And I'm not going to argue with them like that live on the air. I mean, we do this argument over and over again. I can't begin to tell you how many times we have that argument. And I've been on ride-alongs with him 4-5 times a year on the craziest nights. I love riding New Year's Eve. I ride 4th of July every day I can. I've seen this man in the line of duty, and he is fantastic. I've never seen him. And this is coming from me. I've never seen him not respect someone's rights. Not once. Not once. Like I said, I've been on ride-alongs, guys. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Everybody see. We don't agree on everything, guys. We don't. We don't agree. Not on everything. But he's a good friend of mine. An absolute good friend. And I knew that I was bringing him on here today and feeding him to the wolves. Literally going, oh God, I keep hitting my mic. Going, here you go. Chew him up. Okay? He knew he was going into this. He knew what was going to happen. He saw the 1,300 comments that came through on the last stream. And I have to thank everybody. 26,000 views. I enjoyed that. That was really cool. You really gave the stream a boost. I have the hours now I need to get monetized, and if I get another, looks like 252 subs, I'll be eligible to get monetized, and that would be really cool. The guys, the reason why I have the officer on, and hopefully we can get this other one on tonight. Don't know. I do this because I want the dialogue, and I want them to share as much as they can. I really want them to share as much as they can, so we can understand their point of view. On many cases, plays in and I don't believe there's a gray area. Not when it comes to the letter of the law. I don't agree there is a gray area. But when it comes to human nature, of course there's a gray area in human nature. Absolutely. There is a gray area in human nature, but I have a problem understanding a gray area in my written constitution. Like when it comes to my guns. There's no gray area when it comes to my guns. I get my guns. You're not taking them away. I mean, I could pull them all out one by one over here. They're sitting right behind me in a gun locker. You know, I hate that when my friend brags on me. I have pictures and stuff up in the intro of stuff that I've done. And yeah, I was in sports radio and stuff for years. I mean, it's nice when someone brags on you a little bit, but I really don't like that. I really don't. My friends in the hangout, I talk to them a lot about stuff I've done in the past, in the groups that I hang out in. They know the stuff that I've done. But I'm not going to sit over here and self-grandize. Yeah, I see 748, which is kind of cool, Blue Ghost. Like I said, it's really moved up since that. And I have to give a lot of props to Brian King, because Brian King really got the word out on, yes, Sergeant, he really got the word out on the last video that I did. And that's why and then, okay, well, I guess we're going to get the other officer to call in. Anyway, here we go. Hello?
Hello, Steve.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good.
Okay.
I wasn't sure when to call in or not. I was waiting for you to say to call in.
I wasn't sure if you were lurking or not, and I guess you were lurking. I was kind of wondering. I'm like, do I want to go through this again? Because and I don't want to mention names, and I know people try to stay as anonymous as they can. I don't know if you want to stay anonymous. I know you're retired. If you want to give your name, you can. It's up to you.
Nah, leave it out of there, because people may know me from the room, may not know me. Just easier that way.
Oh, I understand. That's fine
for now.
And I'll try not to slip up.
And I might be looking at work down here anyway in Texas, so I don't want to do anything bad.
Yeah, not for nothing, but your audio is amazing compared to the other guy.
I'm directly on the phone. That's why he may have been on a Bluetooth.
Well, he was on the phone out in the middle of a couple of miles of field, so
yeah. That's true.
So okay, now you've seen the videos, both videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how many years experience do you have as a police officer?
About 20, a little over 26.
A little over 26. Okay. Let's Let's hear it. What's your first impression on this?
First impression, I will say, from the point of view of the security guard, he definitely was in the wrong for having that trigger pulled.
Yeah.
I'll start with that. I can understand the last caller's perspective as being an accidental discharge, because if you actually look at his hands, his fingers are all over the place in that gun.
Yeah.
You do see his trigger finger outside the guard, but you see his other fingers damn close to that trigger. Way too close for my comfort.
Yeah.
So it could have been an accidental discharge. You don't know. I mean, I think if it was, and the guy did accidentally discharge, I think he was stupid for saying that it was a warning shot, because that kind of just put it away from being an accidental discharge totally.
Yep.
And at that point, you kind of saying it's a warning shot. You don't fire warning shots. That's one of the first things you're taught, no matter where you are firearms, no matter if you're civilian trained or not. There's no warning shots.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good. So I'm glad they charged him with that. He deserved to be charged with that. As for what led up to it, I'm not gonna say Fuzzy. She's at fault. I'd say she has a little fault. And the reason I say that is because she, at one point, walked away, and then she got all amped up and turned around, came back, and confronted him again. Mm-hmm. And now she's amped up coming around the corner, and she's getting louder on the video. You can hear her getting louder. You don't know what the security guard's hearing this and thinking that she's gone. Now also he's come back. Now he's maybe going into a little panic mode because he's probably not properly trained, which he should have been.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a gun and you do security work, you should be properly trained. There should be numerous hours of firearms training. Like I went through 120 hours of firearms training in my academy. This guy probably went through maybe 2 or 6 or whatever it takes to carry the gun. He should have went through a lot more.
Yeah, and just so it's Furry, not Fuzzy. I think you said Fuzzy by accident, or someone did. I don't know if it was you or not, but it was Furry. That's what we.
Oh, maybe they did. Maybe they did say Furry. Okay. I'm sorry. I probably did. Yeah. I meant Fuzzy. I meant Fuzzy.
You meant Furry. Furry is her name. That's what we call her. I don't know if you said. I don't know if you.
I'll
said
get right. Yeah, you know what?
Okay.
Like I said, I was getting all baffled with it. I was actually saying the wrong name looking at it the other day. It just
okay.
So it's furry like a furry bear, but it tastes furry potato.
Go. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, she could have definitely done some things to not blaming her. I'm not blaming her for getting shot. It should never happen. But she definitely was pushing the issue a little bit, in my opinion, when she came back that second time.
Yeah, that was the problem I had. Yeah. And that was probably it. Truth be told, that was it as far as I was concerned. Because me personally, and I can only go by what I would have done, I would have left the scene at that point, unless there was someone there I needed to go back and get. But yeah, and she was even saying the whole time that it's illegal what he did and everything else. So I mean, if she thinks the law is broken, why didn't she call the police then and say, hey, this guy brandished a weapon, this guy pointed a weapon at me, and she did say assault with a deadly weapon. She wasn't assaulted at that point. Yeah.
There was no assault at all. Assault, you have to physically have bodily, some type of contact or something like that to have assault.
Yeah.
But with that being said, why didn't she call the cops then and get the cops en route? Because she felt threatened. I don't know why she didn't do it. Maybe she's looking for the fight, and she's looking to cause a little bit of disturbance and cause a little bit of pushing the issue and stuff like that, which, and the orders that do that, I don't think are right. I mean, I think it's a couple orders you have on there that I've seen conversations on your stream, and they say, listen, you're not there to push the issue, you're there just to film, and maybe you'll get in the face a little bit, but sometimes there's a certain point in time where you got to just call it a day and stop pushing, because there's a certain point in time where it gets beyond.
Well, yeah, I think I guess
I'm trying to think what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm trying to do the words, but
I mean, I think that has to do with just that personal understanding that like, okay, do I really want to take this further? And some people do. Now Furry went back into this for whatever reason. I mean, I kind of have an idea why she didn't call the police, because she's got bad experiences with them. They don't exactly like her much. And then and I understand what procedure is and all this. They show up and guess who gets handcuffed? And I mean, I know exactly why that procedure is done, but you have to understand from the citizen's standpoint, they're like, wait a second, this guy just shot her, and then they show up and they handcuff her. Now, from from a citizen's point of view, that doesn't look right. There's like, wait a second now. But I understand from the police point of view, they've got to secure the area. The problem is they didn't secure him. Why didn't someone relieve the shooter of their gun? I understand he's a security guard. No one ever relieved him of his gun, and that's what bothered me. Now, if I shoot someone...
well, that was wrong. They shoved... I said the same thing when I looked at the video. I said, you know what? And let's step one step back about why she got handcuffed is because, if I remember correctly, we said this on the last stream, that they called the police on her, and apparently, from what I remember someone saying, it was said in another stream last week, is that someone said she was trying to break into the building.
Yes, he said he lied to the cops and said that. But at the same time, even if I shoot someone who tried to kill me, as soon as the police get there, that gun is getting removed from me. Even if I was completely
definitely. What I was saying was that's the reason she got handcuffed, probably, because when they got there, the police are thinking she is the aggressor. She's trying to break in the building, so they're going to detain her and cuff her while they assess the scene. And then, even though they saw the injury, I mean, the ambulance should recall. I guess the ambulance did show up and everything else. At that point in time, yes, I don't understand why the police did not relieve him of his firearm, because that's another firearm sitting there that you don't need out there.
Yeah.
You know, they should have probably took that firearm from him and say, "Hey, listen, give me a firearm. I'm taking it from him. I'm securing it." He says, "This is what caused the injury."
Yeah.
You know, because same thing happened. Like if I'm at a scene somewhere and I shot somebody and I go shoot somebody, the police officer. You know, we had a couple of we had a shooting one day in our village. Within 15 minutes after it was done, not even 15 minutes, by the time the scene was secured and everything was secured, the sergeant walked over to the cop who shot the person, took the gun from him.
Yeah.
And secured his weapon right away.
Absolutely.
You know, so that weapon should have been secured. You know, and again, I don't know why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But that weapon should have been secured right away.
And
that's a gun sitting out there with a guy who has an anti-trigger thing, which we know it's anti.
Yes.
But they didn't know.
But also, even when an officer fires a gun, there is a time of, there's a little traumatic moment. There's things going in that officer's head. He just had to shoot somebody. So you don't want a firearm in someone that may be slightly unstable after they've just had to. There is a moment where that we've seen it over and over again on many, many videos where the cop is kind of shocked. He's a little bit of PTSD, we can call it that. And you probably don't want a firearm in his hand. Okay? Anybody, any situation like that. If I had to shoot somebody, I mean, it would be like, yeah, take it. Take the gun. You know, once the police gets here, they're going to relieve me of it. And I understand. I'm just trying to over-explain this a little bit because that officer was freaking out. You know,
it's you know, I mean, especially sometimes the mentality of is, you know, you have to think sometimes when you shoot somebody is that the person who pulled the trigger, you don't know what they're thinking. If they all of a sudden start thinking, "Oh shit, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this," and all of a sudden now they take the gun out and they want to cap themselves or they want to off themselves right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they still got a gun in their hand. You know, and it's, you know, it's. I talked to the guy who shot the person. He said, "Listen, you shoot him, your mind goes okay. You're all of a sudden you're armchair quarterbacking yourself.
Yeah.
You know, did I do right? Did I do now? You're going over in your head what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. And this guy, you know, obviously he knows he screwed up when the trigger got pulled. You know, and again, I don't know why he said that. You know, maybe it was an accident. Maybe it wasn't an accidental discharge. But like I said, I can understand why the last call said it might have been. You know, because you look at the hand placement. You know, but anyway, I mean, I said that from the whole time. I was looking at the video when he has his gun on the hand. I'm going, his hand's all screwed up on that gun. You know, he wasn't trained properly. But anyway, that's a whole another argument another day. Yeah. But yeah, you know what? I mean, again,
what do you think we can learn from this on both sides? Because this is a really unusual situation because it happened at a Jewish school and synagogue.
Yeah.
I mean, and just everything that led up to it. There's a lot to learn here if people would just clear their heads of all their immediate alignments. It's they align on the side that they want to, and I understand that people do that. That's human nature. But if we can open our minds to this, what can we learn on both sides of this?
You can learn that there's no easy. I'm trying to how to say it exactly. There's no easy way to judge this whole situation. You know, none of us are there, for one. But as for learning, you know, maybe the auditors can learn. And some of the auditors, again, I'm commenting the ones that push it way too far. Maybe they learn. Listen, I don't want to push it that far because this could happen to me. And I'm not saying that the guy trigger happy on the side. We got security guards that are not totally trained. They're the one the gun comes out. When the gun comes out of the holster, anything can go wrong at any given time. And this video just proved it.
Yeah.
You know, so you basically may want to take a step back and learn, hey, listen, do I want to have this happen where this guy takes a gun out of the holster? You know, and what point that is, it's going to be different on everybody.
Yeah.
You know, this guy panicked a little more. You could tell he has a hand on his gun. In the beginning, I think it was more just a show of force with the gun. You know, he had his hand on the gun to show, hey, I got a gun. You know, maybe he just thought he's a big guy with the gun, you know. And, you know, but then near the end, it may have been, you know, at the point in time, you don't know he's getting fed information on, because you got to remember, in the beginning of the video, you see him taking pictures of her. And she's even commenting, hey, look, he's holding the camera wrong and everything else. And then, so they must have been alerted on something. Because otherwise, why was he taking pictures of her already? And then she goes around back of the building, as the last caller said, you know, she's around back of the building, taping the doors, filming the doors. They don't know what's going on with this. So when they're saying, why does the security guy keep following her? That's the reason he's following her, because the fact that she did things in the back that were a little suspicious, and he's just watching her to see what's going on. Now, I don't know why the cops weren't called right away. They probably should have been when she's filming the back of the place. That would end this whole problem here, you know?
Well, yeah,
but, I mean,
it probably would have. If they were that afraid, why didn't they? Did they think the security guard could handle something that was out of his jurisdiction? Because as soon as he enters that sidewalk, it's not his jurisdiction, and especially pulling a gun on the sidewalk. I mean, look, like I said, he did a lot of things wrong. Almost everything that he did was wrong. I can't really think of, I mean, he was trying to impede her movement on the sidewalk. He has no authority there. So, yeah. I mean, it boggles my mind. And I understand you guys have the worst job in the world to show up to this kind of crapshoot and try to figure it out enough to say if anybody is to blame or one person is to blame, or, you know, spread it out. Say, well, you did this wrong and you did this wrong. That's not my area. That's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is conflict. I have studied martial arts for almost 40 years. I understand conflict. I understand aggression. I understand it all too well. I've taught it. I've taught police officers about this. But suspicious behavior is subjective to the person perceiving it. What is suspicious to you isn't suspicious to me. And that's not a crime in itself. Sure. If something is suspicious to you, call the cops. I mean, that's where I think the school blew it. The security guard
they definitely
blew
did.
it.
They definitely did. When, like I said, I mean, the place I worked for on Long Island, there was a high school, and there was also a Hebrew Academy there. And there was a middle school. We had about 3,500 kids in our little 2 square mile area on Long Island. So we got calls all the time for people being in the back of the building and stuff like that, you know. And so I understand it was like defending the Hebrew Academy and a Jewish neighborhood, because where I worked is 75% Jewish, you know. So, you know, but again, going around back and taping everything else like that and where I used to work and all around pretty much other areas, that would have been called for right away. They would have been cops calling already. Why is this person around back taping? You know, it's okay to walk by, but when you physically see him stopping and looking at the cameras and everything else with their phone. You know, okay, you want to look at artwork. She was commenting on some of the artwork in the back. I'm like, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden she's looking at the door, and then she's looking at the cameras, and you see her looking at the cameras with it. That's the cops should have been called right away.
But here's the thing.
School did drop the ball big time on that.
Here's the thing.
Know?
When someone came up to her and asked her what she was doing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked her what she's doing. Now, she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to answer to anybody. She's on a public area. She doesn't have to. That's her right. But that would have diffused everything if she did.
Yeah, it would have. Definitely would have, you know. So, I mean, listen, I've been in foreign countries where I took pictures of things, and then people ask you, hey, what are you doing? I say, I'm taking the pictures. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, yeah, police officers sometimes come up to you and say, hey, you know, what are you doing here? You know, because they see you taking a picture. And yeah, sometimes it's not a tour. I don't always go to places that are all touristy areas. That's why. You know, some of the areas I go to, I have friends over there. I go to cities that people don't normally go to, and people aren't used to people taking pictures. And I've been questioned before, and they tell me, "Oh no, I just like the artwork." Okay, great, have a nice day, and you walk away. You know, that again, that would have diffused the whole thing too if she would have answered. Again, I'm not blaming her, but if she would have answered that would have diffused the whole situation, and probably never would have got to where it did.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's like I said, she is to blame partially because of a couple of things she did. that she could have done differently that would have caused the problem not to go as far
but
as it did.
hindsight is always 20/20. We know that. We can look. That's why I want to look back on this, because hindsight is 20/20. Will auditors change how they do things because of this? I don't know. I don't know if they will, but I know a better relationship between auditors and police has to happen, or this is never going to get better, because there are going to be police officers that don't understand this, and we hear all this time, and then there's going to be auditors that don't understand police work.
Yeah, but here's the irony of this whole thing. Steve. This is not a police auditor situation. We may be police officers talking about what we see, but this is a security guard. It's not even a police officer.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know, and I know you have like 100. Everybody's up in arms about what we're saying as police officers. I understand that, but you know what? We're just giving our point of view from looking at a video.
Yeah.
But we're not armchair quarterbacking a police officer. We're armchair quarterbacking a security guard who's not as trained as we are. Because I definitely would never have my gun out at any point in time during the whole entire situation. There'd be no reason for it.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also carrying a couple extra things. Like I had pepper spray and I had a taser on me. And I don't even believe in using them. I'd rather use my hands to take care of situations than the gun or anything else unless it happens. So we're armchair quarterbacking a guy who's not properly trained, and they were saying, how come no taser, no pepper spray? Maybe he's not issued it. Maybe he's not allowed to carry it. You don't know. So again, because I saw a couple of comments and things about that too, about, how come no pepper spray or taser and everything else, and just.
Yeah.
Not everybody carries that stuff, unfortunately. But again, we're kind of arguing a point about what a police officer thing here, but this has nothing to do with police at all. It just have to be two police officers that are calling in with their opinions on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Or their observations on it too.
Well, do you have any closing statements? Because we're over 2 hours tonight. Do you have any closing statements?
I know. Once the time's probably getting late. I was listening to the whole entire thing. I was here the whole time.
The first
if you want me to call or not.
I'm gonna get on his case. I'm gonna get on his case. I'm gonna see him tomorrow, and I'm gonna get on the first caller's case about wrenching my ear for an hour. Oh, I'm gonna be on him about this. Oh yeah,
you do that.
We might have to put
gloves on. He owes you a couple beers. Hey, listen. The bottom line here is that what we can learn from is we can learn that, listen, everybody's got to watch what they're doing regardless of who you are. You may be in order, but you still got to watch out for your safety. And if you see something that's getting beyond a situation that is getting amped up, you're not going to want to stay there because you don't know what's going to happen. And do you really want to sit there and keep a person all amped up the whole entire time? Especially when it comes to this exact video. I can understand orders getting cops all face all the time, and I don't like it, but trying to amp them up and everything because the police, we're on a different level when it comes to what we can do, what we can't do, in the sense of, with different situations, and we got to watch our asses too.
Yeah.
But in this situation, the orders may want to just think about what they're doing, and if they're amping up a guy who has a gun and the gun is out, I understand you're trying to push an issue there, but how much you really want to risk your life over the issue? Because this could have gone bad.
Yeah, I understand that.
This guy could have put the bullet into him and shot him. And we talked about we actually probably wouldn't be talking about the video at all now because the video never would have got out.
Yeah.
This could have ended real bad because of the auditor was trying to amp him up a little bit. And in the second half of the day when he came back, I'm thinking the auditor's trying to amp him up the whole entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the action, but he's already amped up anyway. But he seems amped up. Why would you just stay? Why don't you back off a little more? I understand. I guess you just got to be careful. You don't know what's going to happen, and you got to watch out for your safety regardless. You want to go home.
Yeah.
That's one of the sayings that the police are. We go home at night,
Yeah.
And same thing with people. We want civilians to go home at night too. We don't want anybody getting shot and killed in the middle of the night, And we're not out there to shoot and kill anybody either,
Yeah.
So.
Okay, man.
There's lessons learned all around with this whole thing. It's just, it's a wall. It's a lot of things to try to learn and look at, So to explain it in a couple sentences is kind of hard, but,
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for taking your time out to come on tonight. This was, I knew I was, like I said, I told the first caller and you, I kind of threw you guys to a room full of wolves. And
that's all right.
I knew it was going to happen.
I
know you guys are used to it. I knew it was going to happen. And like I said, I just want a dialogue. I want a dialogue so bad because we have both sides. We have police officers complaining about auditors complaining about police officers. And damn it, I just want them to fix this. I want this to be fixed. I want my rights not to be violated, and I want to move on. I mean, who doesn't want that? So I appreciate your call, man, and I know I'm keeping you up late.
That's all right. I'm up till usually midnight at 1. I used to be a night cop, so I'm up all the time late.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your call, man. You take care.
All right, Steve, you too.
Yep.
Night all.
Yep. Bye-bye. Okay. Now, to answer that question, are my rights worth taking a risk for? Well, I don't know. Ask the people from the Boston Tea Party. I said this on Tuesday's stream. They risked their life to make a statement. They were activists. When the British came to disarm us, we met them on a bridge. What did we do? We stood up for our rights and we weren't worried about getting shot. Okay? We still walked into that. Okay? So, when it comes to your rights, I think it's worth the risk. For me, it is. Do you think if they tried to come and take my guns, I'm going to give them my guns, one bullet at a time, in rapid succession, and they'll get me when I run out? And trust me, I have a lot. So my rights are worth dying for. Our forefathers said it's worth dying for. Absolutely. Don't mess with my rights, or I will jack you up in a really bad way. Yeah. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, my rights are worth the risk. And if pushing the issue, I mean, guys, like I said, this is a tough one for me. I am friends with a lot of police officers. We argue this constantly, but they're still my friends. It's the discord that we have. It's the arguments that sharpen us. It's the willingness to enter into a dialogue. Yes, I am Jewish. I don't know if that matters, but yeah, I'm Jewish, yeah. So, yeah. So, I had it, I was kind of wondering what this stream was going to be like all day long. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to follow this up. And after the comments and how nasty some of them were, I knew what was going to happen tonight. And I know we had mods going a little crazy at first. And, well, I just had to rein them back a little bit and allow you guys to speak your mind. I mean, you don't want to be vulgar, but speak your mind. So, on that note, we're going to start to say goodbye here. And, guys, you have rights. Stand up for your rights. Do not ever apologize for your rights. Ever. Be armed when you can. Be legally armed. Make sure that you get trained, not just physically and tactically, but make sure you're mentally prepared. Mental preparation is 90% of it. Mental preparation. And when you do that, you can defend yourself, your loved ones, and everyone else around you. God bless everyone, and thank you so much for coming out here tonight.